Hi guys, good evening or good morning. It's currently 1:41 a.m. IST and I am trying to learn something. It's named Eloquent. Eloquent is a ORM library for Laravel. ORM is Object Relational Mapping. So I was learning it. I thought, well, let me bring you to my misery. So yes, if you are watching online, feel free to relax or feel free to learn. And yeah, I'll just mute myself. Have my screen presented, and we'll probably keep this stream very short, just till the point I am completed with my uh, section. So I have learned a little bit about what it is or how I can create database tables from it. Um, so yes, let's get started.
If that malicious actor tries to update the user ID as well, it would be as if they never did it because it will be ignored entirely when we pass it to that create method in this example. Okay, so let's come back. I'm going to hit Control C to exit out, and then we will open PHP Artisan Tinker one more time. All right, and now rather than rewriting this by hand, you can usually press the up arrow key to cycle between your old commands. Okay, so if I run it now, it's going to work. There we go. So it creates the record within the. All right, and now rather than rewriting this by hand, you can usually press the up arrow key to cycle between your old commands. Okay, so if I run it now, it's going to work. There we go. So it creates the record within the database table, and then it returns to you a new job instance that includes. It's going to work. A cycle between your old you were doing it. So this is what Laravel protects you against this, and you either have to turn off the feature or do what we're about to do right now. Notice after the red warning, I see add title to the fillable property to allow mass assignment on the job class. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like. I can command click to go to the job class, and we can add a property called fillable. This represents all of the attributes that are allowed to be mass assigned. So, for example, if I wrote title and salary, this means these two items and these two items alone may be mass assigned. So, if that malicious actor tries to update the user ID as well, it would be as if they never did it because it will be ignored entirely when we pass it to that create method in this example. Okay, so let's come back. I'm going to hit Control C to exit out, and then we will open PHP Artisan Tinker one more time. All right, there we go. Do a tool, and we should have for our automatically the all method and job find, and we need to give it a unique identifier. So that it's not magical. A SQL query, of course, is still being executed at some point behind the scenes, but Yeah, sometimes it does feel magical. And you know what? It effectively is magic. The Eloquent code base is very, 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 very complicated and confusing. I don't know what I'm seeing when I look at it. But that's the great thing. I don't have to know what's going on there. It just works. So now, rather than memorizing or learning how to write these potentially confusing SQL queries, Eloquent tucks that away behind a nice API. I have a method called all to fetch all the records. I have a method called find to find a specific record. Of course, I can add conditions like where, I can add joins. I can do anything I can imagine behind this nice, clean API. All right, so if I go back to Table Plus, let's give this a refresh, and now we see our new record. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and delete these old ones, and we'll stick with only the ones that were generated through Eloquent, and that's fine. But now if I switch back, if I want to delete this job, then I could simply say job delete. Whoops, forgot the $sign. One more time. And notice that returns true to indicate it was successfully deleted. If I switch back, give it a refresh, now it's gone. Okay, so I think we're in pretty good shape now. You've had your first introduction to Eloquent. The only remaining thing I want to show you is that in this example, we already had a job class that we converted into an Eloquent model, but most of the time you will be starting from time, say these old ones, and we'll stick with back. If I want to delete this job, then I could simply say, and notice that returns true to indicate it was successfully deleted. If I switch back, give it a refresh, now it's gone. Okay, so I think we're in pretty good shape now. You've had your first introduction to Eloquent. The only remaining thing I want to show you is that in this example, we already had a job class that we converted into an Eloquent model, but most of the time you will be starting from scratch. So here's what I want to leave you with, and this will be your homework as well. If I run PHP Artisan make, you'll see there are a bunch of make commands. And you learned in the last episode, these are used to generate files. So as you can imagine, there is a make model command. Now, often these will accept certain arguments, but it's hard to know which arguments those are. So I'll show you a tip. If you add help before any of these commands, it will give you help for the command. Shocker. All right, so now if we scroll up, at the very top, we can see, all right, we can provide the name of the model, and then we have various options that we can include. So when we generate a new model, this is often the start of a new concept in your application. So it's a great entry point for also constructing other things. And that's why we have these options like -C to also create a companion controller for the model, or a factory, or a migration, or a policy, or a seeder. You don't know what a lot of these are yet, but you will soon. So notice the one at the top, -A or --all, which is the long form. It would generate a migration, a seeder, a factory, a policy, a resource controller, and a form request in addition to the model. So you don't necessarily need to do this yet because you don't know what half of these are. But I want you to know that when you start working on these new ideas and you add new sections of your site, you wouldn't start by creating the migration. You'd probably start by creating the model, and then the model would create the migration as part of its logic. That's something to think about. Okay, so out of the box, and we're not going to keep this. If I were to say make model comment, notice that will create a new file within your comments directory, and you'll see it right here. And notice it extends model. It uses this trait called has factory. We're not quite ready to talk about that just yet, but you can leave it where it is with the understanding that you'll learn more in the future. Okay, let's do another one. And again, keep in mind, I'm not going to keep model. It creates two files. It creates for short. So let's do that now. -M. And now it creates two files. It creates the model, but also corresponding post table migration. Let's have a look at that. Post looks good. And then migrations, of course, go in the database folder, and I can see it right down here. So notice these that you want to be excited and about options to also generate corresponding It consists of a body, but a string is too short. So that would max out at 255 characters of varchar. Instead, we're going to use text because it could be a very, very long blog post, and we want to allow for that. So yeah, you're starting to get comfortable, right? We are generating models. We've learned about options to also generate corresponding migrations. You learned in the last episode, you can run PHP artisan migrate to commit that migration. So that is now relevant and visible within your database. So you're making really good progress here. I hope you're excited. And yeah, this is all just so incredibly useful and powerful. I can't stress it enough. This is the bedrock of so much of the Laravel code you will write, even 20 years from now. Okay, so your homework is, work on it. Get this into your fingertips. Play around. You can delete it all when you're writing queries in day 10. you're already familiar with migrations, and that's great. But now the next stop on your learning is factories. So have a look at this one that comes out of the box, user factory. Okay, so I see a definition method, and it looks like it has various database table attributes that consist of fake data. So notice we have name, corresponds to any kind of fake name. And then email corresponds to a unique fake email address, a timestamp that can just be set to now. And then it looks like we also have additional methods to configure that generated user in some fashion. So if we want a user that's in an unverified state, it looks like we can call this state method where we tweak the attributes in some shape or form. Okay, so what do we use a factory for? Well, the answer is many things. We can use a factory for any situation where we quickly need to scaffold or generate, in this case, a user. So imagine you're writing a test, and that test says, well, given I have 10 users, when I then I should right? Well, that first step, given we have 10 users, we could use a factory to quickly generate those. Another example would be for simply whipping up your local environment. So, for example, in our case, we have job listings, right? And if I switch to Table Plus, right now we only have one. But yeah, when we're working in our local environment, it might be useful to have potentially 50 different job listings. And I certainly don't want to manually create 49 more records. So again, a factory is a good use case for that. Okay, so we have a user factory here. How do we use it? Well, you can do it anywhere you want, anywhere you can write Laravel code. Once again, though, I'm going to reach for PHP Artisan Tinker. And yeah, remember when we back real quick. So let's go into app models user. And yeah, remember when we generated a Eloquent model using PHP Artisan make model, we saw that there was a use has factory trait. And I said, I think let's put a pin in that just for a moment. Well, now we're taking the pin out. Has factory adds a number of methods to the user class for generating factories. And one of those methods is, wait for it, drum roll, ... factory. Okay, so let's play around. User, factory, create. Create a new factory for the user class. This is our API. So I'm going to give it a run. Oh, but it fails. Oh yeah, I remember this. Okay, this is good. This is a good learning opportunity. So we tried to generate a new user factory, but it noticed that there's no column named name, even though the factory includes one. So let's have a look real quick. If I switch back to user factory, yeah, this is what comes out of the box. But you'll remember a number of episodes ago, just as an exercise, we changed name to first name and last name. So if I switch back and view the structure for a user, yeah, we tweaked this any number of episodes ago. So of course, it's failing. That's expected behavior. Okay, so we could either bring this back to a simple name column, or why don't we update this? So instead of name, I will have first name. And now you see this fake function here. This makes use of an API called Faker, and I'll switch back here. And Faker includes a variety of methods for just about any form of fake data you can imagine. And what's cool about APIs like this is you can just guess what it is. So for example, if I want a fake name, there's probably a method called first name, and there it is. I didn't even know that was one, but there is, right? That's the cool thing about APIs like this. So with that in mind, is there a last name method? Yes, there is. So I can update this as well. Okay, so we're going to give it one more try, but take a look at this. If I press the up arrow key and I run it again, it still fails. And this is an important thing to remember. When you run PHP Artisan Tinker, all of that code is loaded into memory. So when we make changes, well, we have to exit out and then restart. So I can press Control C to exit out, and then I will bring it back up. All right, and now once again, I can press up to cycle to my last command, run it, and this time it works. Okay, so notice it creates a new record within the users table, and it returns to us a new instance of that user. So if I come back and switch to users, let's go to data. Sure enough, we have a okay, that's done. It's very quick. Give it a refresh. And yeah, now you can start to see the power of this. So well, we can do that in our local environment. Fake users. All right, that's done. It's very quick. Give it a refresh. And yeah, now you can start a fake data. Okay, but what about situations where I want many records? Well, we can do this. User, factory, and as the first argument to this factory function, we can provide a number. So let's create, just to illustrate this, let's create 100 fake users. All right, that's done. It's very quick. Give it a refresh. And yeah, now you can start to see the power of this. So when you are working in your local environment and you're playing around with some things and you want a bunch of different job listings, well, you could use a factory to quickly scaffold them. So let's do that now. If I switch back, yeah, at the moment, we only have a single user factory. And of course, I could duplicate this and rename it to job listing factory. But yeah, situations like this always reach for a generator. So Control C, PHP artisan make factory. And yeah, don't forget, if you're confused about what argument to pass, you can precede it with help. And I can see, all right, let's include the name of the factory. And then optionally, I can include the name of the corresponding Eloquent model. All right, PHP artisan make factory job factory. All right, let's give that a run. And now we have a factory for a job. All right, so what about the attributes here? Well, it looks like we have a title and a salary. All right, so let's do a title, and this is a job title. So I believe the Faker library has a method called job title, and it does. Great. Next, salary. What could we do here? We could do a fake number of sorts. Or remember, it doesn't have to be random. So in situations where it just doesn't matter whatsoever, then feel free to hard code a value. Like if this is fine and will suit your needs, then you can do that. But if you want a variety of salaries for filtering or something like that, then you would want to make it dynamic. So it just depends on what your needs are. All right, and I think that should do it. So let's give it another shot. PHP artisan tinker, app models job, factory, create. So again, notice how all we had to do is create the corresponding factory, and Laravel is smart enough to figure out what that mapping will likely be. Give it a run. Ooh, we get a call to undefined method job factory. Okay, let's scroll up, and I think I know why. Yeah. So remember this particular class we created manually because a number of episodes ago, we already had a plain old job class to work with. But I want you to notice the difference here. If I switch to user, it uses this has factory trait. And yeah, we saw this a couple episodes ago. If we make any old trait, and yeah, we saw this a couple episodes ago. If we make any old model, make model post, that the generator will include this trait here. But again, because we manually created the job class, we haven't done that yet. Okay, so let's delete this and manually add it on. We're going to use has this trait here, post, that the generator haven't done that yet. As factor, kind of ideal. All right, sorry about that. Let's do it for a job, and there we go. This PHP artisan method call. All right, sorry about that. Let's do it one more time. PHP artisan tinker up, create a factory for a job, and there we go. This time we have a data processing equipment repairer. That sounds like an exciting job, and there we go. All right, once again, let's do a bunch. Let's do 300 random fake jobs. And again, notice how quick that is. Give it a refresh, and there you go. We got musician, physicist, warehouse, geological data technician. It's pretty cool, actually, when you think of it. Now, what about if I switch back to user? You'll remember, let's go into user factory. Okay, so you'll remember there's an additional method called unverified. And it looks like if we want a user in an unverified state, that would mean email verified at is set to null. But notice by default up here, it's just set to now. So if we switch back, all of these users, where is it? Will have the email verified at timestamp set. Okay, so how do we activate this particular state? And that would be the term, by the way, that we use, state. Well, like this: app, models, user, factory, and then we call the state method, which is unverified, create. And that's it. So notice email verified at is set to null. So yeah, you're not going to reach for this all the time, but trust me, once you start building more substantial projects, you'll run into situations like this where, yeah, you need to create a model or a record that's in a very particular state, usually for the purposes of performing a test. So I'll let you take a look at this. Notice you create a method, give it any name you want, and then within that method, you call a state method on the object where you pass it a closure, a function that returns an array. Okay, so you can create these yourself as well. Admin job on our site would correspond or have a relationship to a given employer. So you can imagine if going title or the salary is, I've said multiple times, a job. And rather than calling the find method and providing an ID, if you ever just want the first one that comes up, I can use a method would correspond or have. So yeah, that would be a good use case for a state. So I could just copy what I have here and say,
Okay, so we have covered the Eloquent ORM system. Um, the model factory is quite useful, I have realized. So in case I want to generate dummy data, I can do that. Still, there is a bit of things that are pending. I am currently very sleepy. So yeah, we'll catch up about involved in some developmental work. Post that point, I will be getting into here to use it for, let's say, displaying the data dynamically, rendering the data dynamically. Yes, so that's about it for today. See you guys next time. Thank you. Bye bye.